All right, everybody. We're live. We have a little bit of a lag on the old video, but welcome aboard all. Thank you for joining us once again. It is, what is the date? Wednesday, August 15th, 2018.
2018. I don't know how we suddenly got to August. A bit early. How we got so here so quickly. August 15th.
Obviously, this is wonderful Pink Floyd. That's kind of the opposite point that we're trying to make, but we like the dichotomy.
Yeah, that's it.
The rebellious nature of it all.
Brick in the wall.
Yeah, all you need is another
You still
brick
have
in
to
the
be
wall.
educated to not be a brick in the wall. We do not own the rights to that song.
Yeah, no. Anyway, thank you to
Pink Floyd, The
Pink
Wall.
Floyd for creating that song.
1979.
79, that was my birth year. There you go.
Yeah, you were born.
I mean,
A
99 was my birth year.
Oh, yeah. You just aged really badly.
As you can see from our sponsors, the Nickelodeon Writing Program and Creative Screenwriting Magazine are our sponsors today. Obviously, people on the podcast, you can't see that, but now you hear it. So,
And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. There was a really great, they've been putting our
we
little
are
Wine
putting them
Wednesdays on YouTube.
That's right.
So if you don't want to just hear it, if you want to see the goofballs, that's me.
We are
Messing
putting, and
about.
we've noticed that with some of the trivia when we play, you know, like name that tune kind of thing, YouTube's been blocking out some songs.
Yeah, so you'd be thinking, this is great. I
Hey,
really like to hang out with them
just
for
turn
their
your volume
silence.
up and see how many people are like, hey, what's going on? So anyway, if you do watch it on there, you'll notice. But anyway, you're here with us now, and you're listening to the podcast. Thank you very much. My name's Max Tim. This is Felicity Wren.
Hello.
And this is the cat about to jump up on my lap. Maybe. Her name is
Just
Bella.
thinking about it.
Sniffing the chair. But hello, everybody. We got screenwriter Phil Parker. Phil has changed his official name to screenwriter Phil Parker. Welcome. Howdy, Mary Davis, Maeve.
So his initials are now SPP.
Is that good or bad? I don't know. Now we're just getting weird.
Hi, Phil.
Yeah, we're 2 minutes in. We have said nothing. So thank you for listening, everybody. But tonight we're going to be talking about the importance of an education. I think it's pretty
So
obvious.
you don't do stuff like that.
What?
So you don't just like say stupid stuff.
Yeah, right. Get an education so you become smarter than we are.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point. But
Oh yeah, I'm going to hold this up here because I can't see it. It's down there.
it's kind of silly to even put it out there. You know, why is it important to gain an education? It kind of reminds me of Brian Regan, my favorite stand-up comedian, who he was talking about something along the lines of there's no point and counterpoint argument about the benefits of reading. Like, no one is ever like, well, you shouldn't read because, you know, it's obvious you should be reading.
I think they did a survey though in America that some like 34% admitted they didn't read and were proud of it.
Which is, you're proud of your ignorance, basically.
I know. I love myself a nice
It's too
book.
bad. You know, you got to be reading. You got to be reading. If you're a screenwriter, if you're a writer and you're not writing, and if you're not reading, what are you doing? You know, you're writing
either.
something. You're writing something so other people will read it. So what you should be reading, what other people are writing. But that's one little part that we're going to hit upon today.
Yes, and then we have our
among
lovely
many
sponsors
other
today.
things. Yeah, but let's pour the wine. What do we got? This is
We're not being sponsored by.
We are not sponsored by wine tonight. Don't worry, we didn't lose our sponsor. But this is a Francis Coppola Director's Cut Pinot Noir.
Yum, 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 yum.
Thank you to Francis for making this wine so we can drink it.
Yeah, thanks, Francis. Sponsor us if you like, Francis.
If you have wine, please raise a glass, say cheers. We will. Cheers. Welcome.
Thank you for tuning in.
Welcome, Kat, as she rubs her face on the microphone. All right. Wow, that's powerful.
I needed a slightly bit longer time open before we drank it.
Yeah. So anyway, people on the live broadcast can see the cat's butt, but thainquely the people on the podcast
Don't
cannot.
worry, she's waving her tail. Hello.
He's very
Hello.
very trusting of the camera.
Hello, everyone. So anyway, we love Nickelodeon Writing Program. We were going to talk about
And
them
I'm
because
sure
they're
you've heard
very
it.
much an
Yeah.
educator, and they're our sponsor. They've been a great supporter of the ISA for a while now. They support our Third Thursdays,
Yeah.
and they also have come on board to help the ISA be a producer in association for Table Read My Screenplay.
Oh, cool.
They actually attended our Hollywood Pitch Fest table read.
That's right. That's right.
And there
Donated
was-
some toys for everybody to take
Exactly.
home.
They've got this amazing new Rubik's Cube called
It's like
Writer's
a
Block.
brainstorming tool called Writer's Block. It's a literal block of just words that you can twist around.
Yeah, so it's like a Rubik's Cube. So you
Yeah.
can, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, what could happen in this scene, you can go, They laugh, they burp, someone falls off a bridge. The normal stuff you would have on a writer's block. But anyway, we'd like to say hello, thank you so much, Nickelodeon, we love you. Do apply for their lab. You get actually paid to write for them for a year if they choose you, and they're actually going to be announcing their finalists on the 31st of August. So, because they've actually the 15th of September, 2 people will be selected to join their team to work with them for a year.
It's a big deal. The writing program is a big deal. It's free to enter. You should be looking up, if you are interested in writing and TV, you should be looking up all the fellowships. Nickelodeon writing program at the top of your list, because it's just, talk about an education. They take an educational approach first and foremost with their writers when they put them through this program. Here's how the TV world works, regardless of genre. And then they're going to be coaching that person to develop the projects they're writing.
Developing the projects, and then how to be in the room. It's a complete career coach.
It's intense.
It's wonderful.
So the Nickelodeon Writer Program, they're awesome. They've been
them.
Sponsoring us for a long time. And of course, Creative Screenwriting, you should be going to creativescreenwriting.com. They're back up and running. They've been around for a long time, but they're,
Yeah, they were quiet for a bit, but they're back with a vengeance. And actually, they're running a screenwriting contest at the moment, and they're going to give away 5 free entries.
Oh, that's right. This is the big announcement.
I know we're doing a slightly different thing. We're not doing trivia at the end of today because
we are not doing trivia.
We're not doing trivia.
No, we're not doing trivia. Sorry, everybody. It's just wine and us
just wine and Max being smart.
Me.
And then because actually we're going to have a different way of entering. So actually, if this podcast goes up before the 31st of August, you still have a chance of winning a free entry.
So basically, all you have to do is email
Ali at screenwriting.
Ali at creativescreenwriting.com.
Yes, great.
It's ALLIE. But what do they have to email? They just goes, hey, hello, or
they have to go Wine Wednesday free contest.
So subject line needs to read Wine Wednesday free contest entry. Well, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But we're going to be testing you. This is importance of an education. In the body of the email, just say, please enter my name into the draw or the
for
giveaway.
one of 5
yeah,
free entries. And they're going to
subject
sign you up to the
important.
newsletter so that you do get something back. They're going to sign you up to the newsletter, which I think would be very good for you anyway.
Come
I
on,
think
what the
that's
heck?
part
It's
of your
free.
education.
Yeah.
And then they're going to give away 5 free entries to the contest to everyone who, you'll be entered into a draw. So everyone,
name picked out of a hat, basically, kind of thing.
Okay, so that's good.
But you should go and check out what the screenplay contest is. CreativeScreenwriting.com. You should just play around with everything.
It's actually getting the winner gets optioned.
There is a guaranteed option, and I think there's a cash payout. There might be a small cash payout.
Sorry, Creative Screenwriting. We should have looked that up. However, I am wearing yellow like you, so I feel like I've blended.
Anyway, so huge thank you as always to our sponsors, Creative Screenwriting, Nickelodeon Writing Program. Before we go into some more announcements, let's just save those for a bit, just so that we're not dragging everybody on and oh god, more announcements. Let's just talk about a couple of reasons why we generally, in a general sense, think education is important.
Is that a new shirt?
Yeah, it is a new shirt.
It's very nice.
Why are we? We're switching gears immediately. Why is an education so important, especially in the entertainment industry?
Because in order to have a story to tell, you need to have read other stories and you need to be interested in the world. You need to have a point of view, and the only way to get one of those is to be educated.
Yeah. You have to know, generally speaking, what you're talking about, which sounds so ridiculous, but you'd be surprised. A lot of writers have not educated themselves on the process of even writing a screenplay.
Or the topic that they're discussing in their script.
Much less telling a story. Yeah. I mean, one comment that we had before, and then we'll go into some more announcements, is that if you claim to be writing a particular genre, let's say science fiction, you need to be an expert on science fiction. There's no reason not to be an expert on what you're, or at least attempting to be. It's difficult to become an expert, but attempting to know as much as you possibly can about the genre that you're writing in, because you're eventually going to end up in a room, hopefully, if you wrote a great script, talking to a producer or a director, and they're going to be asking you what you think about this idea. You need
where it came from, what inspired you.
No hesitation. Yeah, you need to know what you're talking about. Not just about your script, but about the genre in general, and why. Like, what if you were sitting down with Ridley Scott, who obviously is a science fiction king, and he wanted to talk sci-fi and the genre with you?
Yeah,
you can't,
Just for your own benefit.
And he would probably love to have that conversation. We have a really bad glare on our screen here, so it's hard to read the comments. But
and my hair is almost like a supersonic glow right this second.
We have Kesa Matson. Hi guys, wow, I love the colors tonight. Yeah, this was a last second switch. We're very Easter Sunday kind of going on here.
I know, it looks like we're going to church. Hello everyone, we're going to church with wine. We're going to go and have some communion.
Hello to Lee J, hello to Robin.
Hello.
All right, anyway, so it's pretty obvious. We're going to go into some more basics in terms of the importance of an education and how you can attempt to gain it, different avenues. But what else we have? A fast track fellowship is a good way.
It's a very good way of educating yourself in the ways of Hollywood and beyond. Because you actually come and have 8 meetings with mentors who actually hear and work and they're in the industry.
So when we founded Fast Track, we were all talking about what can we do in a different way for writers in the form of a fellowship. And the most I coach and teach writers literally on a daily basis, and Felicity's constantly reading scripts and talking to writers and giving her opinions and thoughts of what they can do to
judging contests.
Yeah, being very judgmental. But
you saying I'm mental? You saying I'm a mental judge?
Judgmental?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. No, but when we founded Fast Track, we had this thought, like, what can we give writers beyond just a cash prize, optioning their script or something? And
what's most valuable? Yeah.
I had this thought of what's the hardest thing to teach a writer, because it isn't something you can just put someone into a classroom, and it's how to take a meeting and what that meeting's like. You can't teach someone the experience of walking into CAA. You just can't do it unless you just walk into CAA. And that was one of the things that Andy Byrne was talking about, one of our past Fast Track fellows. He was saying that just knowing where, actually it might have been Chris Dewan, it was either Andy or Chris, saying just knowing where to turn in the halls, like where do I go to get to reception, because the one thing you feel immediately when you walk into these huge agencies is this huge intimidation factor.
Yeah, the grandeur.
It's like a museum in these places, and I think they might even do it on purpose, not only just to spread an ego, but it should be a little intimidating. Wow, I'm at the upper level here. If you don't know where you're walking, you're immediately at a point of, I don't belong.
Yeah, I feel
and you don't want to feel that way.
Yeah.
Now, granted, not everybody's going to be winning our fellowship, and not every writer is going to easily be able to just have that experience of walking into CAA. But you can look at photos. You can try to study what the agency looks like. I'm sure they're up somewhere.
Well, I think the thing is you have to think like that. It's about putting yourself in the mental position to think, I would like to be able to write well enough that I'm going to be invited to meet someone at CAA, either through the Fast Track Fellowship or through some other route.
Yeah.
But yeah, being prepared. Educating yourself to be prepared. Being
prepared, yeah. I mean, sometimes when you go, when you're in high school or you're in middle school or something, and I remember taking calculus or something, thinking, oh, I'm never going to use this, and I was right. I never use calculus.
But you do have a spreadsheet.
But that's math. It's basic math. There's a level of, if I loved calculus and I wanted to pursue engineering or architecture or something like that, different story. I knew I wasn't going to do that. So that level of preparation, it's not like you need to know everything. School in general is to, find out what you're really good at and what you're, enjoy.
Broaden you.
Yeah, and the teacher's, real responsibility is to help bring that out of you, not necessarily just to make sure that you know everything. And that's kind of what we're saying. If you're going to be a romantic comedy writer, or if you're going to write Christmas movies for Hallmark, you need to be watching every single Hallmark Christmas movie.
Yeah, just be an expert in your field. You can't be an expert about everything. And then also follow something, a passion that you drives your heart, or it makes you feel wonderful, enlightened, full of joy.
If you
then you won't mind doing the homework.
If you love animals or something, then maybe you'd end up writing a script about animal sanctuaries, or I don't know. There are ways to put it in there. All right, what else we have? So that's Fast Track. That we're coming down to our final deadline
it's today
tonight.
Actually, so it's tonight at midnight.
If you have a script, you should be submitting to the Fast Track.
And then we wanted to congratulate Diane Lansing for being the honoree of the ISA Fellowship at Stowe Story Labs.
Stowe Story Labs, for one thing, you should just Google that. Look them up. Stowe Story Labs is pretty awesome. It's pretty much a long retreat, and different organizations offer up fellowships from within their organization for one particular writer to put into the Stowe Story Lab. And we chose Diane Lansing. It was a tough decision.
Yeah.
And the two writers that you, Felicity was the one who chose. The two writers that were up for the finals were two Story Farm writers. That was not planned.
Nope.
But she decided to give it to Diane because the script was done and ready, and it just felt like something that was that was close, but with the story Lab, it'll be that much stronger.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, congratulations to Diane Lansky.
And that's a kind of using education. That's an
Right.
education
Yeah.
point of it.
We have a question. Let's ask this. Holly is asking, does anyone here imagine that there might be a collective male control policy in the world of screenwriting and movies? I believe this dynamic, which was reverse engineered by the Artist Intelligence Agency over the past 4 years, is responsible for the huge blooming of superhero movies, not to mention Harvey Weinstein and more. Wow. I mean, it's a huge question, Holly. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's true that men did run this world for a very long time. I don't know if we can necessarily automatically connect it to the superhero movie. I think what the studio saw was a cash cow, regardless of gender. Honestly, I don't think that was this, we're going to try to control the world by giving people male superheroes. I mean, look what happened with Wonder Woman, and you know.
Yeah, I think I think you're right in the fact that people that had the purse strings were men.
Sure.
White, old men.
There is no longer necessarily a huge, it is still, collectively
Predominantly.
speaking, male dominated, yes. But the Me Too movement has shifted the town so much, it has legitimately scared
It just
people,
takes
which
a
is a
little
good thing.
while. It just takes a little while for the movies to come through. I know that because we both work to get writers that we work with to producers, managers, and agents, there is more than I have ever had a request for female scripts,
Oh yeah.
female writers,
I had
female
a call today
protagonists.
with the head of a development at a company, and their whole company is designed around female-centric, not only characters and stories, but for the female audience.
And to be honest with you, I've been working for the ISA for 4 years, and I have been, before Me Too, I have been gunning for the female writers and the female story for the time that I've been choosing and working for the ISA. So,
And there are kind of two reasons to do it. For one, it's just the right thing to do because there should be a balance, and because women have just as much of a right to tell stories and hear stories as men, which is like a ridiculous thing to say. But then the other side of it is that it's this whole side of a marketability standpoint, this other demographic that isn't served as much. And I think Hollywood is seeing, oh, whoa, it's like this in a way, seeing this Crazy Rich Asians movie explode. I don't know how people didn't realize sooner. Maybe we should make movies with Asians
Black
in it.
Panther is
Black
another good
Panther.
example.
I mean, come on. It's just silly. So I think it's good that we're getting to that silly realization. But it's also, I'm not trying to over or understate it. You know, it's important.
I was at a theatre production of The Waitress the other day at the Pantages in LA, and it's about the three lead characters are female. It was, I would say, 75% female audience. It was sold out on a Thursday night. And the men that were there were definitely either gay or willing husbands that were kind of, did it as a good thing for
I've
their
heard
wife.
really good things about the show, though.
Oh my God, I loved it.
Yeah.
But honestly, the noise that this collective force of women in the theatre when these events happened was incredible. And there was a joy. I mean, the songs in it are wonderful, but there was a joyful, and the story is not complicated and it's not rocket science and it's not groundbreaking. However, having that story out there, having three females talk to each other the way that women do, have the songs be about love and heartbreak and real life, and suddenly it's honestly, it's about being heard. And there's something about women having their stories finally heard. Even I can't wait till we get to be complicated. But even the simple stories, it's just like, here we are.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That's Sarah Bareilles, right?
Yes.
Was she performing in the show that you watched?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, wow.
I
She's
don't
probably
know.
in the New York. I don't know.
She was in the North. There are a few people had come across from Broadway, but anyway.
It's a good question, Holly. It's.
I think even if it was the case, we don't need to worry about that anymore because it's not anymore.
I
So
wouldn't worry
moving forward-
about kind of this, a collective or any kind of conspiracy. I think years ago there probably was some form of conspiracy. I don't think they would have called it that. I think it was more of just what's the term?
Unconscious bias.
Unconscious bias. I think it was just male dominated, and the world has been male dominated since its inception almost. And
they
it's
definitely
changing.
changed history like halfway.
Oh,
through,
they have,
Yeah.
but men came in and, anyway, we don't need to get into a history lesson, although this is the importance of
I think
education.
education, yeah.
Deborah, hello. What else we got here? Okay, so looking forward to Third Thursdays. Yes, so good segue.
That's good, and that is a good segue actually, because in our on our website, we have articles and advice. And the top thing on our articles and advice at the moment is pitching and as a podcast and how to pitch. So why you should pitch, how you should pitch, clues to pitching, 5 tips for pitching. And if you're in LA, then that's what's happening. We're doing a kind of like a panel first where we just talk about
It's called Crafting Your Career as a Screenwriter. We've got Lee Jessup, who was on a few weeks ago here, on Wine Wednesday, and Karen Kirkland, who has also been a guest on Wine Wednesday, and then Felicity's going to be on the panel, and I'm moderating, and then so we're going to be talking about what you can do to try to, move your career forward and giving advice. Karen has moved to
a literary agency.
Abrams, I think it's Abrams Agency, as a lit agent. So she's going to be talking from that side of the industry. It's going to be good. But then at the end of the panel,
we're doing some pitching. We're taking some pictures.
There'll be at least 5 people pitching. We're going to give them notes on that. It's really, even if you're in the crowd and you don't stand up to pitch, you're going to learn a ton from the notes that they give you on those pitches. Those pitches are not going to be perfect. Those people aren't going to try to sell it to the people on stage.
Also, of course, we're going to make them feel terrible.
We're going to ridicule and make them feel horrible. This is all about education.
I just say sometimes a room can be mean.
Sometimes you're going to walk out of the office crying. This is what we got to teach you how to do it. No, don't walk that way.
The opposite. Yeah, the opposite.
Bring Kleenex with you. Anyway, that's tomorrow night.
That's tomorrow night. Tonight
in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles, and in New York, we're doing from script to screen.
Script to screen with Jim Hart and
Jess Hines.
Jess Hines again, yeah. So Jess Hines runs meditativewriting.org. You should totally check that out. Talk about an education. Meditativewriting.org, and she's awesome. But they're going to be breaking down the movie Contact. We talked about this a little bit last week.
Which is Jim Hart's movie.
It's one of our favorites. It's one of my favorites.
And he has his own method of finding the heart of a character called the heart chart.
Right.
So again, his education. I must admit, all these third Thursdays that we're doing, going on and on about, is all about trying to help you do better. We're honestly, this is the ISA's mission, is to inspire, educate.
And really, I think it's a side of the industry that doesn't get enough attention. And it's really, sadly, it's not a side of the industry. It's an inferred side of the industry, meaning the top people in town, agents, managers, producers, directors, A-list talent, they expect the writer to have done the work. The problem with that is they don't always help you do the work. And that's the hard part. All a writer technically can see is what has been produced. And a lot of times they watch a bad movie and they go, I could do that, so they try. And sometimes they do a better job, you never know. But it's so different. Every actor that comes to Los Angeles is told you got to get into an acting class.
Yeah.
You have to. It's part of the deal.
I just think anyway, it's I think we spoke about this before. I think human beings work better together as a collective. We're better if we're working with each other, for each other, in service to each other and for each other. And I think in educating, you just open yourself up to more possibilities. You are networking without realizing you're networking, whilst improving yourself and your craft and expanding your imagination. And who wouldn't want to do that?
And there's a level of networking that comes into play too, the importance of an education. That's something that a teacher can't sit a writer down and say, here's how you network. You just have to go out and do it. And the more you communicate with strangers and the more times you just approach people in parties and start chatting, that's networking. And the more you do it, the better at it you get. I've met many writers who are extremely introverted, and I wouldn't say to a fault. That's just who they are. At the same time, it is a part of the business that you at least have to find some kind of comfort in. You have to do something, just get out there and meet people and chat and just at least be in the situation and the atmosphere of talking to people. As silly as that sounds, you have to do it.
Well, the thing is, your script is going to be talking to people. That's the whole reason why you've written it, is because actually you want to say something. Yeah. I'm looking forward to really giving Greg a hard time tomorrow. Greg
Beck is, those might be tears of laughter, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
just straight
tomorrow,
tears
just straight tears.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, just straight tears, Greg.
Yeah.
Especially since he's just had some success with one of his scripts. So,
Come
and
prepared.
he's just been paid to write another script. Congratulations, Greg.
Beautiful.
That is very, very exciting news for you.
And then Mary Davis, so we have a whole bunch of Third Thursdays around the globe. We've got one in Cleveland. We've got them all over the place.
London.
If you go to our events page, you'll see where all the Third Thursdays are occurring. If you want to host your own, we may be able to help you with that. The only reason I say may is because we've had so many requests from other cities that Mali is just completely inundated, and we have to kind of slow the roll a little bit. But there will be more coming in terms of certain areas. But if you're in the Cleveland area, you should definitely go and talk to Mary and meet Bruno.
Oh, that's good. Lee, speak to Mary. Leave her a message.
I'm in Atlanta. 3 people have told me that screenwriters must be in LA, so I'm out of. Oh, Mary, where do I find it? So yes, you can send Mary a message, Lee J, but you could also go to
events on the ISA
events
website.
tab on the ISA website. You can find all that out. So Lee is asking. I'm in Atlanta. 3 people have told me that screenwriters must be in Los Angeles, so I'm out, I guess. No, not necessarily. So Lee J, if you want to write in television, you want to be staffed in a show, yes, they're right. You have to move to Los Angeles. If you're writing features, I wouldn't worry about it yet. You can still write a great script and find its way to people in town.
Well, Atlanta as well has had a lot of business recently.
And Atlanta has a huge, burgeoning, yeah, totally. If you're writing features, I wouldn't worry about it. You're fine. Just write a great script. Somebody will find it. We have a lot of writers who are not in Los Angeles who are making their way around in terms of optioning scripts and selling scripts.
Yeah, I mean, just be the best you can in your area, and then you're going to stand out. I mean,
Sean was our recent Fast Track fellow. He's from Virginia, and he got signed right away because he wrote a great script. He doesn't live in Los Angeles.
Great scripts.
He's a TV writer, so he has realized, okay, yes, I'm going to have to move. He's going to move to Los Angeles. But again, if you're writing features, I wouldn't worry about it too much, Lee J. It doesn't hurt. If you're able to move to LA, fine, move to LA. But if you don't want to, I don't blame you.
Yeah. And it's just literally, it's expensive here. So, I mean, I would... You need a job that you can do alongside your screenwriting, just because otherwise it's just too hard.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be disillusioned. Max can tell you he drove across the country 15 times before he finally settled.
It's almost 10. So yeah, so my
I
little
like to
story.
add another 5 to
if you've
everything.
heard it or not, my little story. So I moved out in 2002 through a college semester program from Columbia College Chicago. I spent 3 months on the CBS studio Radford lot studying film producing and screenwriting, and I even took some classes in wardrobe and lighting and everything. And it was cool. It was just a nice immersive experience. I lasted maybe 5 months, ended up running out of money. I was 22, so I wasn't that disappointed. When I left, I wanted to stay, but I just was like, this is tough. Moved back home for a little while.
Home cooking, laundry.
I was 22 years old. I still wanted to. I didn't know what I was doing. I eventually moved back to LA for a little bit. Ended up getting a job in Chicago, so I had to go back to Chicago. Got a job in advertising for a little bit. Did that for a while. Hated it. Moved back home to Wisconsin for a short while. Moved back to LA with hardly any money in my pocket, saying I'm going to try to make this happen. Ended up managing the dining room of a yacht club in Marina del Rey, and it was an okay job. I'd been in food and beverage for so long that it was just kind of like second hat, but old hat, whatever that term is, second nature. Anyway,
second nature hat.
I eventually got an executive assistant position with a distribution company that is now defunct. I was a terrible executive assistant. And then I started taking classes at a place called Writers Boot Camp. At the time, it was a very big school for screenwriters. And
Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze. I was trying not to sneeze. I've been sneezing
I thought
really
my
loudly.
breath was so bad that she's like, "Oh my god!"
That was yesterday.
I did. I had some salsa that was not working well with my breath.
But no, it was because I didn't want to do a loud sneeze. You've been telling me off all day about my loud
Her sneezes, I can hear them from Georgia. But anyway, so long story short, I eventually found a school for screenwriters, and I started taking classes there.
And what was it called? Writers Boot Camp?
It was called Writers Boot Camp. At the time, it was one of the bigger schools for screenwriters. It's not really doing that much anymore. But I learned a ton there, and I owe so much for the programs and the lessons I learned. I eventually started teaching there. And that's where I first started having my chops in teaching. I started consulting some of our A-list clients, and I eventually ended up kind of running the events and a lot of the little things going on in the company. I ended up leaving that, focused on my own writing, but during the time with Writers Boot Camp, I also ended up moving back home because I'd run out of money. I got really sick. I had to get my tonsils taken out. Like it was probably a solid decade before I kind of figured it out.
So what we're saying, Lee, is don't be hard on yourself.
I just kept trying to make it work, and it eventually worked a little. It's not like I'm suddenly A-list or anything. I haven't sold any scripts yet, but I've had a couple nice writing assignments and books that have done well. But it's all because of my decision to focus on education. It really was, because I learned what kind of writer I was, and then it was an approach to how do I tell these stories, because prior to that point I was just writing scripts and they were terrible and I didn't know what I was doing. And most of the time,
like the taxi driver, the guy in the Uber who offered me his 243-page script
right,
to read on my own time.
On my own. Right, he's not going to pay you.
Oh.
Anyway, there's long story short.
So,
too
but
late.
no, but then you got to the ISA and you became, and really you are, what's your title? You are the director of...
I'm the Director of Education and Outreach.
And so what was it about the education thing that made you think...
I saw the difference between writers who had focused on education and the writers who had not. And it was night and day, literally night and day. You could see it in the first 2 pages. Has this person spent the time studying other projects and scripts and movies and stories and understand how to start a screenplay, whether it's a pilot or a feature, or not? And you can tell. You can just see that the person either gets it or doesn't. And really, most of the time, it's to no fault of their own. It's just because they haven't spent the time to study. They haven't read scripts. I was going to say,
because the thing is, it's not about being lacking in imagination, because that you need in spades. But also, there are some rules that readers who are professional readers are waiting to see on that first page.
Well, and the hard thing is having a full understanding of how to write visually, because it's purely a visual medium that you're writing in. This is not a purely literary one, meaning an author writing a book. With the screenplay, you're literally presenting what we're going to see on screen, and a lot of writers don't necessarily understand that. They either rely on their dialogue to try to get exposition across, or funny little jokes to make sure that the reader is still paying attention. What keeps our attention is how our brains are working as we're also reading the dialogue. What are we picturing in our head? And it's up to the writer to do that. And a lot of times, most of the time, you're not going to get it on your first try, your first screenplay. You're just not. And that's not your fault. It's just because you haven't done it before.
Well, also, you are still building your idea of the story you're telling. I don't think anyone goes, that's my first draft.
No.
There we go, all done.
The only story I've ever heard was Paul Haggis when he wrote $1 Million Baby and gave it to Clint Eastwood. And Paul asked Clint Eastwood, do you have any notes? And he was like, not really. Let's just shoot it. But this is Paul Haggis and Clint Eastwood, and I think they had already even probably solidified their actor. But
and probably talked through the story of it.
I'm sure there were changes made on set. Yeah, but it was technically first draft. I'm sure for Paul Haggis it was probably his third or fourth. That he had reworked the story a couple times before.
It's the only one he showed to Clint. Yeah,
it was the first time he showed it to anybody, and he said, "Great, let's do it." So, it doesn't happen. I'm just going to throw that out there in a generalization. First drafts don't win contests. They don't get optioned. They don't get purchased. They don't get made.
One of my most precious items that I own is the original draft in handwritten on yellow, lawyer's paper, of a script that was written for me by a poet called Glenn Maxwell, and he writes the most incredible. He writes in iambic pentameter, so it's this incredible, beautiful language. But I thought it just kind of poured out of him. We'd be on the tube, the metro, and he'd be writing stuff down, and then I looked at this thing, and it's covered in alterations. So
nice.
it's in red, it's covered in it, but it's so precious. He said, "This is my gift to you" at the end of it. And
that's pretty cool.
Really,
wow. Try writing a script without typing. That'll force you to slow down.
I think that was 2002.
Wow.
Shit. Giving away my age there.
So let's
Obviously,
see.
I was only 8 at the time.
So Lee J, you write features. I wouldn't worry about it just yet. If you start hitting it big, then maybe you want to,
If you start hitting it big, then you want to come to LA anyway, because it's a great place to live.
You get a little apartment out here or something, and you can come, 3 months out of the year. Hopefully you have that problem.
I'm sorry, my dress keeps popping open.
EJ, ooh la la. EJ, LA has places like The Office, which other places don't have. However, I couldn't stay in LA and write. Yeah, there are plenty of places to write, no matter where you live. It's just you can write a great TV. You don't have to be in LA to write the TV pilot. You can be in Atlanta and write a great TV pilot.
But it's being in the room,
in order, if you intend to write on a show, it's just because it's where they make the shows. It's kind of like if a great job is in Dallas and they're offering you the job, you have to move to Dallas. Christopher could very well get into a good fit from Cleveland. Yeah. Christopher was saying that he lives in Cleveland and he should go. It's just a nice sociable atmosphere, Chris. There might be 15, 20 people. It's not going to be a giant crowd, but you'll meet some fun. Hopefully you get more people, Mary. But,
well, I was going to say, if there's 15, 20 people, then you can stand out,
Yeah, you meet who, Lord knows, you might make a new friend, for crying out loud. Let's see. Writing is so cathartic for me, keeps me sane. Yeah, great. Just keep going. In the meantime, read other writers' scripts as much as you can. Put together some kind of little peer group and read each other's stuff, and you're going to learn so much about your own writing by reading other people's stuff. I can't tell you how. And you don't have to pay anything for it. Like there are things you can do. You can hire coaches. Like with me in the Story Farm, my writers have a call with me every week, and I give them deadlines, and saying you have to get this done by our next call.
He's very strict.
And I'm giving them full notes on what they send me every single week. So we're building on everything, every week going forward. If you can afford that, do that. I'm not saying you have to hire me. There are a ton of coaches out there. If you can spend $300, $400 a month, or however much it is, to hire a coach, do it.
I think you should go to Third Thursdays, meet a little group of other like-minded writers, seeing as you're in the area. And maybe on second Sundays, you meet and you have your little writers group, and you sit and you take the pages that you've gone to so far and you talk about them and you read them for each other.
Yeah.
And the other writers will tell you about the typos.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But then at least you'll have, then you'll set your own deadlines if you don't want to work with the coaches yet.
Or I'm sure there are like message boards and things online that you can find.
I'm having more wine.
Joe, I'm going to have some more too. Joe says, you guys are awesome. Worked in features for over a decade as a visual effects comp artist. Very nice. Reinventing myself, currently producing, illustrating graphic novel. Awesome.
Oh!
Good Lord.
I know, it's on my yellow dress.
Jesus. Oh, I don't even see it. Felicity just spilled everybody on the podcast, so you can understand why we're saying not too bad. Anyway. Let's see. Learning so much from you guys. Thanks for being an inspiration. No, you're welcome, Joe. That's good.
Oh, absolutely, Joe. We learn a lot from you too, to be honest. It's a good two-way street.
Denise Myers, hello.
Hello,
wonderful.
Denise.
Always wonderful to see one of our stars. Mara, don't you have to have an agent pitch for you, or are there other avenues? Okay, so wow, talk about an education. So, let's talk about that.
It'd be nice.
Yes, of course, it'd be nice to have an agent pitch for you. Technically, what an agent does is they come in.
I want to go put some. Can I
can't
go? I can
see
see it. Look, it's going. It's going. That's on that purple edge. Excuse me 1 second.
Holy moly! She's got to get up and dab at her.
Bottom.
This is a very professional production I have. Anyway, so Mara, or Mara, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, but an agent is going to come on usually when there's some form of business on the table. They're either they see the script as something that they can sell, or more likely attach one of their agency's talent to it. If it's only a literary agency, obviously they're not going to attach another screenwriter to it. Some of the bigger agencies like UTA and CAA and ICM and Paradigm and all these other places, they have multiple levels of talent, from directors to actors to writers, etc. A lot of the agencies like to package their own talent to a project or script. So if an agent thinks, hey, I'd like to rep you, and I also think that this actor that I rep can be a part of the script, then they're almost in a weird way. I'm not saying in a legal way. She's clip-clopping with these boots on the phone. It's almost like they can double dip in a way, like the agency's going to make twice as much money. They're very money-oriented, as they should be. That is not a complaint in any way. They have a business to run. That's what they do. They kind of control the money flow around town. You need the agencies for that, and they're really good at it. Sometimes they're jerks, but come on. I would rather have a jerk on my side fighting for me than somebody who's passive and isn't willing.
However, you cannot rely on them, because
No.
it's that thing of the same with actors too. They think, I've got an agent and now I don't have to do anything, and that is the last thing you want to happen, actually.
Right. There are ways that you, as an independent screenwriter, it really all depends on, is the script amazing? And how do you know if a script is amazing? It starts winning contests. You can start submitting to some contests. If you're an unknown writer, you don't live in LA, you don't have any contacts, contests are the way to do it, or hiring a coach, or hiring a reader to read the script and give you notes. Once the script's in a place that's amazing, people are going to find it, and then they're going to want to pitch it for you regardless of who that is. If it's already good and it has some accolades, you can probably reach out to some producers and say, hey, I have the script, you made this movie that's sort of, in this
Similar.
genre.
Well, you had the same, that your writer Valerie did that.
So Valerie reached out to a bunch of managers and said, here's the repertoire of projects I have. I've had 2 or 3 projects that have sold and they've been produced, and would you consider repping me? A manager is different in an agent compared to an agent, because a manager is going to be working with you to develop the
full
material.
career. And
Whole
it's
time.
a full career with
And
a
agents
manager.
sign on for your career most of the time too, but they're kind of per project basis. So the answer, I guess, Mara, is no. You don't have to have an agent pitch for you. You can blindly reach out to people
In a polite but
in a
gentle
polite,
way.
not a crazy person way. But also don't put the cart before the horse. Write a great script. Get some accolades first. Maybe make a short film or something if you want to be a director.
Sizzle.
Get yourself out there so you become noticed first. Rarely will an agent reply to a random email from somebody they don't know.
No.
It just, and I don't blame them. They get so many emails anyway. Prashant is saying, I got inspired by the Netflix series like Narcos and Black Mirror, of course. Gave me so much boost and unlocked my potential. Please talk about scripts like these and where submit and all. Please, love you guys. Okay, so talking about scripts like that, I mean, Black Mirror.
Charlie Brooker wrote it, and he is an incredible writer from the UK, and
There's a level of genius in there that is it's kind of untouchable.
Well, also the thing about him is that he has always been this way. He has always had these ideas about the world and the social qualities of the world
I
that we
think
live
that's
in.
the key. He always had something to say. There's a message in every one of those stories, and he just finds a unique way of telling.
Yeah, he used to have a kind of a comedy show that he used to do called Brooker's I can't remember, it was a TV thing anyway, and then Black Mirror kind of grew out of that. That was the funny side of it, and the Black Mirror is the terrifying dark side of it. It's the underbelly, it's the shadow self, it's the horror that awaits us all.
And then,
but he has been writing for a long time, is what I'm saying. That didn't come from it just out the blue.
I think shows like Narcos and Black Mirror, Westworld. I'm trying to The Night of.
But Westworld really took a long time to find its feet. It wasn't,
and it's kind of lost itself in the second season. But the whole point with all these shows is that they had a very strong theme and message they were trying to get across. On top of that, a feeling that the person producing or writing it wanted to make sure the audience felt. And a lot of times writers don't necessarily think that way. They're just trying to get a story across, they're trying to get a plot across, a concept.
You have to know where it's going.
And what you'll notice about all those shows is that the characters are so powerful, either in a good way or in a bad way, that you can't help but relate to them or be afraid for them, even if you can't relate to them. So you
feel something.
Yeah, you feel something. And it's connected to some kind of theme or meaning. So I would focus on that, Prasant. What do you have to say? How are you going to say it? And can I do it in a way nobody's done it before?
Yeah, how do you want us to feel reading your work?
Yeah.
I mean, we can be inspired, we can be terrified, we can be uplifted, we can be miserable.
There you go. So Clint Milby, if you're in the LA area, join me at Burbank Writers Weekly. Beautiful. What do we got?
Good.
Writer,
Very nice.
girl, karma. As writers, we will often find any excuse not to write, that's for sure. It doesn't matter where we live or who we know or if we have an agent yet. All that matters is that we make time to write a good story, dynamic. Yeah. The story will find its audience when it's ready. It's for sure.
Absolutely. And I know you've been traveling Writer Girl because we're friends on Facebook. So changing your environment, seeing new places, opening up your mind, educating yourself about other cultures. All these things are going to inspire you and educate you and make you more change your writing, make it more interesting.
Yeah, you have to experience the world. That's one thing I haven't either chosen to do or been able to do is travel as much as I'd like.
But then you've been writing about fairies in the bottom of your garden.
I write in the fantasy realm a little bit, yeah, but I am very either consciously or unconsciously and I'm not trying to be cocky, but in tune or at least forcefully aware of how people react to certain things in certain situations.
No, you're a sensitive person.
I'm a little bit
empathetic.
I'm not like, when I say an empath, I'm not like psychic, but I just notice how people react to certain things, and then I try to remember what that visual is so I can make sure I describe it well enough in the script so people understand.
Did I ever
what I'm
tell you a
saying.
terrible, horrible actor story?
I don't probably.
Do you want to hear it?
You've probably told me many of them.
Okay, well then this is a friend of mine's, it was told to her, but I thought it was an interesting moment when she realized that she could never be an actor. because a friend of hers had just heard some very bad news about his best friend being hurt in an accident. And he was absolutely devastated by this, the fact that his best friend had been hurt in this accident, and he was just so upset and he just couldn't believe it. And he had this, he was like rushing out the door to go to the hospital to go and see this person. And as he rushed out the door, he got to the front door and he went, actually, I'm just going to see what that looks like. Went back, looked in the mirror to see what his face looked like.
So he would remember it in his
this
next
moment
audition.
of utter grief and horror and worry.
And
so he went,
oh dear.
Okay, that's it. And then went, I'm a terrible person, because
Right.
then I had to go out the door.
It's like
to
you can always go back to a Seinfeld episode. It was like Elaine stopping to get little pieces of, like, she got some candy before she went to see her boyfriend in the hospital, and everybody asked her, "Did you get that on your way?"
You know what? I had to close the windows because our neighbours were taking a phone call downstairs
It's really
while I was doing that.
loud
But it's
outside.
honestly, now it's made me so hot. I'm like,
Now
oh,
we're
this is
drenched. We are now drenched. Yeah.
It can't be the red wine we're drinking. I'm just going to be the.
You gotta lift the
appearing
thing.
and
Lift the
disappearing.
thing in the
No,
bottom.
it wasn't. That was lifted. I'm the appearing and disappearing.
Lift the thing. Rather than
Technical term.
What do we got for time? All right, we got maybe 5 minutes or so. Rather than through an agent, how useful is it to submit material through their website, such as Inktip? It can be useful. The problem with sites like Inktip is that it's a little watered down, and it's very difficult for producers to find your stuff. It's not impossible. I know writers who have.
I was going to say there have been
There have been
some
successes.
I mean,
for sure.
there are some that charge more than others to be listed.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have to blow the ISA's trumpet here in the fact that if you're ISA Connect, then you can list all your scripts for your monthly
That's
fee,
true.
which
I
is
know
$10.
Inktif charges per script or per
Same
post.
for Blacklist.
And I think it's just $10 a month for Connect, and you can put them all up. And we have pretty much the same process of producers are looking for through material, but we're also building a much more dynamic system. Inktip's fine. I'm not trying to talk Inktip. Yeah,
We're not dissing Inktip.
go
at all.
for it. You might as well put up what you believe will actually, sell. I think the key in those sites is a really good log line, because nobody's just going to read a script randomly. They're going to get enticed by the log line.
Keywords.
Log line's extremely important. But with the ISA Connect service, which is a lot like, and I think better than Inktip, is that we're going to have ways for you to track who is reading it. You're going to be able to choose which scripts that you can make public or private, and I think you can do that now.
Well, you can do that. You can also do a voice pitch. You can also
do a
put
voice
posters
or
up.
video. You can put posters up. You can do a little graphic design of like a
And
tonal
it's
thing.
one charge for the whole month. And then
Yeah.
you have all the other stuff you get for free, which is the articles, advice, and podcasts, and this good stuff. And then Third Thursdays. So, I mean, we love that. Any way you can find, and you have to put it out there. I think that's what we're saying, is you have to be brave. You have to put your work out there. You have to meet people. You have to talk to people. You have to get educated. You have to throw your hat in the ring.
There are so many things that you can do now without relying on some kind of a gatekeeper to let you in. If you look back at all these stories of people who have found like a lot of success, they worked tirelessly for years in perfecting whatever craft they were working in. And then they continued to work at the educational level of making sure they're as good as they can be. These top actors, they all still have acting coaches. They're all still working through roles. When they get a role, and Emma Stone is going to go to her coach and say, let's work this part and let's get the most out of this, as opposed to just rely on my natural instinct. It's crazy. And it's actually kind of dangerous if you do that, because if you screw that role up, even for an Emma Stone or a Meryl Streep, people are going to be like, what happened to them? And they may not get in the role. It's
Well,
the
it's
same
like
with
everything,
writing.
isn't it? So you're only as good as your last script in writing,
Yeah.
acting, all this kind of art world
It's a
stuff.
scary thing. You always have to be a little better than you used to be, and that's daunting. Sometimes if you come out like a Ben
Bat Out of
Affleck
Oh.
and Matt
Matt
Damon,
Damon. Sorry, I thought you were saying Bat Out of Hell.
they crashed the scene with Good Will Hunting, and they had to continually hit that level, which was extremely difficult, and they didn't always do it. They, of course, focused a lot more on their acting career than writing.
Yeah.
And it just happened they were pretty good actors. But it's tough when you hit that level early, and then you have to continually be better than that. So you almost have to put yourself at that level. I'm going to, expect myself to be as good as everybody else. How do I do that? And it's rising to the occasion.
Acting anyway, it's just the fact that you can't always see what's in there. That's why I like table read so much. That's why we support Table Read My Screenplay, because in a table read, actors will tell you things you didn't know were in the script. And that is actually the same even if you work with a writer's group. They'll be like, did you mean this to happen here? And were you thinking about this when that happened? And even having another set of eyes on your work, sometimes you won't like everything they're telling you.
Yeah.
However, if enough people keep saying the same thing, there's something there.
I started Story Farm almost exactly 2 years ago. And out of the, I think, probably a total of 40 to 45 people, I think it's like 42 people that have, signed up and gone through and coached by me and my other coaches. I think I'd have to do the math to find the percentage, but I'm pretty sure it's above 80% of those people have continued beyond their initial package they purchased, either 12 months or 6 months or 3 months or whatever. They continued beyond that, and they understood the value, not just to toot my own horn, but it was the value of every single week they had to get something done, but not just so that they can hit a little deadline, but they knew that I was going to be, or one of the coaches were going to be, giving that person notes to go, no, this isn't working, but here is what is working. Let's enhance that, rework this. And it's beyond explainable to tell you how helpful that is.
Well, I was going to say also, your writers have done very well in contests since, haven't they? And getting options and getting out into the world.
Yeah, a lot of them.
You've had a very good success rate.
A really good success rate, and I really am not going to take responsibility for them. They Kat.
They did it.
Kat Cooper is one of the writers that signed up with me that had never written a script before. We worked through, I think, 2 or 3 scripts in a year's time. And one of the first scripts that I think it was the first or second script she wrote, ended up being a finalist in a horror screenplay contest. It still needed a little bit of work, but it was validation that she was doing something right, that she had talent. Great, let's work on that talent and improve on it. She wasn't just going to sit back and go, oh, I guess I'm good enough now, I don't need you. And there's a level of mentality that education feeds that kind of mentality. When you are constantly educating yourself, you realize that you're not as good as you could be. Like when I read some of my favorite authors, there's an author called Patrick Rothfuss. I'm a huge fantasy fan, and I wish they would make more fantasy movies. But Patrick Rothfuss is from Wisconsin, teaches at UW Stevens Point. He's just this normal guy, and he wrote this series called The Name of the Wind, and it just, the level of talent in this person's hand, unbelievable. How
His mind,
talented
actually.
this
I think it's up there.
mind through the hand, whatever. It was,
This hand is so talented.
yeah,
You should see it.
I'm thankful for my hand.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, hon.
You know what I mean? Going through, typing, writing, whatever. But it was daunting to see someone that talented. Like when you read a Stephen King or a J.K. Rowling or something, and you notice how good someone is at something. It's like if you're an athlete and you're trying to, make it into the professional league of whatever sport, and you see a Michael Jordan in that sport, it's wow, it's daunting because
But
there's
that's what's
God-given
so
talent.
exciting, isn't it? That's what's so exciting about it, is that and you can do your own version of it. I mean, the good news is you're your own special, beautiful, unique version of that.
Right.
And you have your own voice and your own story to tell and your own wonderful excellence to reach.
Yeah, and you don't need to be a Michael Jordan. It'd be great. There's a level of God-given talent there that people are.
Well, it's amazing when you kind of see these little babies. They're like 4-year-old, and they're like, oh, blah 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 blah.
Right,
You're like,
they're
how
playing
did
the
you do
violin.
that?
Like, wait a minute.
There's
But
certainly...
you can at least aspire to be better than you were yesterday, at the very least. And the only way to do that is educate yourself, read more scripts, and just hire a coach or work with other writers.
I think don't give up on yourself. Understand that you are worth it, and that if it makes you feel good, then take that moment for yourself. I've been doing yoga every day since March, and my little 15 to 20, sometimes an hour, depending on how I'm feeling, it's my little moment to myself. That's my little education about my body and yoga and breathing and peacefulness and calmness.
Yeah.
So,
and in this town, with as much as that we have going on, God, it's precious, those 15 minutes,
You deserve it.
We have some more comments. Let's see. Mike Rogers, really enjoyed your interview with Bill Prady. Oh, thank you, Mike. And actually, thank you for reminding us. I just recently interviewed Bill Prady, who's the co-creator of The Big Bang Theory, but he was also a writer and co-executive producer and all these different consulting producer levels on shows like Dream On and Caroline in the City. And oh, God, his resume is ridiculous. Really smart guy, but he took such an educational approach to the advice he was giving in that interview. So thank you for the reminder, Mike. You should go to the podcast page on networkisa.org and listen to that. Bill is awesome, and it was a really fun, lighthearted. He's just a great guy.
Super smart.
Really, he's a total geek, and he's had like an asteroid named after him. I mean, he's an amazing guy. Let's see. Should I get a consultant after my first draft or try to do a rewrite? It all depends on where you are, Anthony. I think it doesn't really matter when you come into the consultant. I think it's best to have multiple ideas as opposed to just one script.
I agree, and I also would say there are cheaper ways of getting some notes initially.
Yes, yeah. You can pay $200 once and get 5 pages of notes as opposed to hiring a consultant for $400 a month or something and working with that person. So I think either way, whatever you're comfortable with, Anthony. I don't think there is a rule. Rewrite, always rewrite. That's for sure. Let's see what we got here. Do a contest with feedback instead of a consultant at first. Excellent advice.
I agree, John. I think to begin, let's just see where you're at.
Right.
If suddenly you're a semi-finalist in something, then you might have something really good going on here. And if you pay for the first 20 pages of notes, which quite often contests give away free, or they offer that for a very small sum, then actually that will really let you know where you're at.
I will say I like to work with writers who have fresh ideas that they haven't written yet. I'm fine with working through rewrites, but I usually, when I have a new writer come in, I'd prefer to work on something that's fresh, that they haven't put words on the page yet, because then they're not married to those words. It's really difficult to get a writer to rewrite. You know how hard it is to rewrite. I have trouble doing it myself. And
oh dear, that makes me feel sad for John Brecto. One of our people we met in Spokane at the Rising Conference, he asked for a development and marketing valuation from me, and I gave him. We had a great chat for 90 minutes, and I told him he had quite a big rewrite.
Yeah, sometimes and it can be daunting. Like if you hire a consultant, let's say you agree.
So much work.
Seriously, think about it. If you agree to pay $350 a month for 12 months, or whatever it is, 6 months or whatever a consultant charges. No. But let's say you agree to, that you're signing up for this thing, and the first level of notes from this consultant is you have a lot of work to do and we need to rewrite the whole thing. That is going to suck to hear that. It's necessary.
They wouldn't do it just, I don't know, I mean, like, there's some consultants, like psychotherapists, they're like, I'm going to keep you here in the chair and we're going to keep coming back for 5 years. I mean, maybe. I think the consultants that have people and they work with them and then they kind of get scripts made and they're not just kind of rehashing and hashing.
If you're working with a consultant on a brand new idea, you're both open-minded. The consultant gets a chance to see what kind of writer you are, how well you take to notes. I'm really good at working with the style and mentality of each individual writer. I don't try to force my style on every single writer. Like a really great coach, I think my dad taught me this at a young age, that the best coaches out there, regardless of what they're coaching, are the people that can work individually with people, because everyone's different.
Yeah,
and
some
everybody
are oral,
learns
some are,
different.
Yeah, it's true.
Some people are very sensitive and they don't want to be screamed at. Some people need that scream to
I've
tell them
never heard
keep
you
going.
shout at anyone.
No, of course not. I mean, that's it's unnecessary in the writing world, of course. But anyway, you get a sense of how to work with the writer when you're working on fresh material.
It's the same for actors. Yeah, some were very visual, some very oral. You have to work out.
Right. So let's see. We'll take any last questions here. Bruno, do you guys know about Talentville? And if you do, what do you think about it? Do you think it's a good way to get feedback? I have not heard that much about Talentville in the last couple, maybe 3 years. I think it's a decent online community. I don't want to say anything negative about any of the organizations out there. I just haven't heard that much. And to be honest, I think the honest answer would be I've heard literally nothing about them over the past 2 or 3 years, which kind of tells me that they're not very active. I hate to say that because I think we know some people over there and they're very nice people. I don't think there's anything bad. It's just there may not be as much activity over there. Or
maybe they're not shouting about it. I mean, I guess I would It's a shame you can't really audit it, can you? I mean, I look at reviews, try and Google them and find out what you can, do your research.
I know that it was going to be some form of a social media aspect to the screenwriting community or filmmaking community or something. Honestly, just use the ISA's website. I hate to just throw that out there. Most of the stuff on there you can do completely free. The podcasts are an unbelievable education. The amount of information you get just from the articles and advice, although some of those things I think you need to pay $10 a month.
To then list all your scripts as well.
But there's so many options to get for 10. And we're going to be rolling out a new membership, which will be barely a little more expensive. And it's going to be very educationally oriented. And that'll probably be coming out probably like November or something. But, you know.
I guess the thing is, what we're saying is that this is the whole reason why we're here, is that it's to celebrate writers and to inspire and educate. That's the whole reason why the ISA was set up. And it's more about being an umbrella. So we also want to be somewhere that you can come and you can find other people. That at least we've kind of vetted as well. So
we're happy to promote other organizations. I'm not saying you just only focus on ISA, but I have a feeling that if the more you use the website, especially as we further develop and finish the development of the site, because it's been through an overhaul, you'll probably see, well, I'll probably get more through, them. Where creative screenwriting is a huge educational resource. You should absolutely be reading Hollywood Reporter and Variety. We didn't talk about that. You need to be reading the trades, even if you're just a writer, quote unquote. You need to know what's going on.
And then you need to be applying for the Nickelodeon Writing Program.
And applying to the fellowships, absolutely. Yeah. All right, folks. Do you make your clients do outlines and treatments before going to? Absolutely.
Yes, that's what he makes it.
Absolutely.
He's a task master.
Weeks to months of outlining and treatments.
Yeah, you don't even get to put a word on the page till everything is set.
Yeah.
For at least as clear as it can be.
Think about it, and we'll just take this last little second. If you have an idea and you immediately go to pages, you're going to inevitably, every single time,
it won't be your fault.
You're going to go 20 to 25, maybe 30 pages in, and you're going to realize you don't know necessarily what direction you go on, and you're going to be relying on instinct of your own writing ability, and you're going to start making the excuses of, I'm just going to let the characters take this somewhere. Suddenly you're going to, if you do continue writing, you're going to have a 200-page script that has nothing to say, and you have no structural beats. Even though I hate to, preach.
You have to know the rules to break them.
I hate to preach formula, but there are rules. You have to have certain beats by certain page numbers, and if you haven't worked that out yet, you're not going to know what you're doing in the pages. But what's so great about the outlining stage, whether you use a consultant or not, and honestly, if you don't have the money, you can take my craft course or read my book. Like thecraftcourse.com is $100. You can buy my book for $15.
It's all in there.
But and it teaches all that stuff in terms of structure. But I treat the first and sometimes second draft as that outline and treatment. And then by the time you get to the script, that first draft, quote unquote, feels like a third draft because you already know everything that's going to happen, even down to some lines of dialogue.
And then the characters can speak to you.
Then you can go, let's see where the characters go. And sometimes you have some discovery process there where you're like, you know what, I have this whole new idea. And then you can work within the construct of everything you've already put together. So don't write a first draft without planning first. It's silly. It's like trying to build a house
without
just throwing shit up and without a foundation, and you realize it's just going to fall over. So anyway, good questions, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Patrick says, for real. Steven says, thank you. Thanks, everybody. So we will be back next week. We have 4 weeks in a row.
Oh, my God. Are you sick of us yet?
This is not normal. We usually do every other week or 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. August has been oddly...
August's been very packed, but September won't be busy. Because I'll be away for a bit. And I think we're doing 2 in September.
And I'm going to be finishing my writing assignment, I hope, in September. I'm writing a very...
Oh, my God. I'm sorry I keep flashing you my holes.
Yeah. All right, well, anyway, we will be back this time next week here on Facebook, International Screenwriters Association. But
do check out Nickelodeon Writing Program. Do be thankful for them. Do check out Creative Screenwriting.
If you want to put your hat in the ring for winning one of 5 entries to Creative Screenwriting's screenplay contest, email Allie at creativescreenwriting.com. That's ALLIE at creativescreenwriting.com. Just email them. You have to put in the Facebook or in the subject line, Wine Wednesday's Creative Screenwriting entry. Some reference to Wine Wednesday and free entry.
And then they'll sign you up for the newsletter, so then you'll get Axel, when the newsletter's coming
And
out,
then-
then you can go and look at articles and advice
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
And then from there, 5 people out of the people that sign up with that as the logo will be picked and given a free entry to the contest.
We're awarding 5. All right, folks. So have a good night. Last night to submit for Fast Track. Thank you, Patrick,
you,
for the
yes.
reminder. Robin, thank you. And Anthony, thanks, guys. All right, we will see you next week. Have a good week.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, bye.